would be connecting late and speaking later. I'm going to open the meeting. It's now 5:03. And I think normally we start with a Pledge of Allegiance. I think we ought to do it. And we can, even if we don't have a flag there to look at, we certainly have it where it needs to be right now, which is right here. So, ready?
Yeah.
I pledge allegiance
To the
to
flag
the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now, I'm going to tell you how I have planned for this meeting, and it's intended so that we can be efficient. There we go. We have Chris now. This is not a meeting to discuss anything really in the past. There are a lot of issues I know that the board is going to be wanting to address in terms of communication, some of which may be appropriate for executive session at a meeting when we can have an executive session. I would like to focus on where we are as we stand here today and how we're set up in order to get from here until next Tuesday. I also wanted to preface all that by saying I'm well aware of all anxieties that are suffered by everybody in our district. And while I may not give the specific anxiety for the specific person, I'm aware that they exist for everybody, and they're going to exist on different levels, depending on what your situation is. So for example, parents of school-age children are going to have a different kind of anxiety than do I as a board member or perhaps other board members. I'm just using that as an example. Because of the heightened anxiety, I think it makes everybody very sensitive to just about everything, and it's like a sensory overload. And I wish there was some way I could help everybody feel better about that. My hope is that at the end of this meeting, we've got a clear understanding of where we are right now and where we expect to be a week from tomorrow. So the other part of my preface is to say, all of us have read and are familiar with the written reopening plan and the fact that it's been changed over the last month as more information has become available, as more guidance has come out, as more detail has gone into it. The reopening plan itself is what's required by our state commissioner, meeting requirements that are set by the government and the state commissioner of education, and it pulls in also CDC requirements and Department of Health requirements. Those are things that are given to us as the district. Those are things that were considered and put into the plan. In terms of exactly what to expect on Tuesday morning, that's the one thing that I want to just go over with the superintendent for everybody, so we all hear where we are today without looking back, but where we are today, what needs to be done between today and next Tuesday morning, and So I'm gonna start with that, Dr. Gianni, if I could just start and say to you, I think, not only are we familiar with the reopening plan that's been written and has been posted, we also saw the letter that you sent to the faculty after the faculty meeting, and I think that may be a piece of information that you might want to bring in as an exception to my comment that we're not going to be looking at what happened before, because I think that the letter summarized your meeting with the faculty, and maybe it would behoove all of us to be brought up to speed on that. And so again, if you could focus on where we are today and how we're going to get where we expect to be on next Tuesday.
Okay, well, you threw me a little bit of a curveball there, but I think what I'd like to first start with, because I did make some adjustments to the plan based on board feedback and based on just things that I felt we needed to do in terms of clarity. So can I go over those first?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I posted on Word Docs the plan, but what I also did was I put in red the changes, so they're easy for you to see, okay? So you don't have to go searching, but I'll just speak to each of them first. The first one is on page 16, and it has to do with face coverings and masks. There's some question about confusion about the difference between the face coverings and the masks. So what we did was we updated that section to be clearer in terms of what's permitted or not, and that's on page 16. The next update was with regard to the playground equipment and the cleaning of it. Initially, we weren't cleaning it at all, and we've updated that piece to indicate that in the morning before kids come in, the playground equipment will be disinfected. And that's on page 25. The next update had to do with water fountains, and this is on page 26. And the board knows the plan was to have our bubblers off, and Ms. Ancona brought up a good point that I was not aware of, and that the state request when the bubblers are off, cups be available because they don't have bottles. So we're going to obviously make cups available at our bottle filling stations. The next one is pre-K. Our initial plan, and this is page 26, our initial plan had pre-K on the identical hybrid model, which Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. However, pre-K is not participating in remote learning. So what we're going to do on that Wednesday is alternate that Wednesday for pre-K kids, so they have actual in-person learning on Wednesday. So for example, on Monday, Tuesday, the first week, there'll be Tuesday and Wednesday, and then next week, it would be the Thursday, Friday folks would have Wednesday. So we're going to rotate Wednesday. The next item were some definitions, and this is on page 28. There's been many meanings of things out there with regard to what's streaming, what's live instruction, what's live support. So we felt it's important to define those and what they are in our eyes. So families and as well as faculty and staff understand what our thinking is, and that's on page 28. Face coverings and masks, again, that just was clarified in the transportation section, and that's page 35 and 36. And then attendance. We've updated how attendance will be taken on page 37 and 38. And I know the board is aware that it is a requirement for us to take attendance and to submit that to the state. And we have outlined how we are going to do that on those 2 pages. In regard to what's left to do. I mean, obviously, we still have a lot of balls in the air. There's still things to be done. Those members that were able to join me on the facility walkthrough, I hope can agree that our buildings are ready. Obviously, we have a few things to do, but at the time of that walkthrough, we still had a week to go. But basically, we are ready to open. Chromebook distribution is happening now. I do know the board is aware that our Chromebook deliveries are not coming in as we had hoped. They were promised in August, and we've learned just the other day, at the end of last week, that they're not coming in until October. So we are making some plans to ensure that everyone has a Chromebook in their hand that needs it. The principals at the K-3 level, so first of all, grades 3 through 12 will all have a Chromebook. And in K-2, we are looking at first making sure we have a Chromebook in the hands of children who are on remote, and second, in the hands of children who do not have a device at home. And we believe we're going to be able to do that. Principals drafted a letter today. I don't know if it's out yet, but it will be out shortly. We still need to clean up and confirm what we are going to do with regard to the grab and go meals, but we do believe we have a plan that I do not wish to share because we haven't confirmed it. Ms. Gossett is speaking with our principals, and we are putting plans in place with regard to families and getting meals when obviously they're on remote and they're not in school. Next conference day is scheduled for Wednesday and Thursday. We're all set, and as I've shared with the board as well as the union, the teachers union, our focus on superintendent's conference day is on reopening. What we need to know with regard to reopening our schools, and that is basically it with regard to reopening. Transportation routes, those letters went into the mailbox today, so families will have that information. And that's about it in terms of things we need to do. I mean, obviously, there are some loose ends out there that we will address, but I do believe we are ready to open. Not to say that when we open, we're not going to have some hiccups, because we would have hiccups if we open tomorrow or if we open a week from now. It's just going to be a matter of getting the kids in, and I'm sure we'll have some transportation issues, as we always have, which will need to be resolved once we see what those issues are. I'm sure we may have some entry issues that we'll need to resolve once we see how it actually works. But I think everything will be quite resolvable. Last we spoke, our remote numbers are up a little bit in terms of percentages. We have currently, as of this morning, 719 families choosing to keep their kids at home and fully remote. Those numbers, I think it's 18% district-wide. I think it was 16% the last time I spoke with the board. And I see Ms. Arruda has her hand up.
And I do know that I have been noting that our remote only students have been increasing. Have we discussed within the committees, the teaching and learning hasn't met yet, so I'm not sure, but have we discussed having remote only teachers as this percentage starts to increase?
Well, we have not discussed that. I don't think those numbers are there yet, but remember, our plan has been designed to be able to move from remote to hybrid to all in. And my concern with that is unconnecting the kids to the students. I think that once we open and see where those numbers are, we may want to assign a remote teacher to better support some areas, depending upon where they are. but not knowing where they are, it's difficult to do that. I'll give you an example, kindergarten. It's gonna be a challenge trying to keep those kids connected at that level remotely. And we may have to do that there. But again, I want to see where those numbers fall within the classrooms, because I do believe they are spread out pretty well, and it should be able to work. But as I said to you, and as I said to the faculty, we got to get in it and start it and see what it looks like and make adjustments along the way. It's a fluid plan, and we will need to make adjustments as we implement.
Okay, I'm hoping over the next couple of days, I understand that we have a lot of changes. But I am hoping that we're gonna start to think about that as that number increases. It just increased 2% from last Thursday. So I do think it's something that we need to really look into. I know that we are seeing that in other districts, where other districts first initially said that they were not going to do that. But then they're realizing that this might be an option. Only for the simple fact of making sure that all of our kids have somebody connected to them. I know that we do have some staff that is choosing not to come back, for whatever their medical reasons or whatever. So it's definitely something that I think over the course of the next few days, as we may potentially see that number start to increase, we may want to take a really strong look at using remote-only teachers throughout all grade levels.
The order of questions, Gina, the order of questions, Mr. Parker was ahead of you.
Oh, no, I'm just asking if Cheryl can come back in, she's in the waiting room.
Oh, all right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
No, that's
burst in
okay.
when you had a.
I was trying to get in between an answer somewhere, she's been waiting for me.
Okay, so now we're gonna go to Mr. Parker, and then I think Mr. Pacini had his hand up.
Okay.
Okay.
Dr. Schiani, thank you for that update. But what bothered me, I guess, from the update is that you said there was something that you did not want to discuss with the board right now. You know, we are your partners. And you can't hear me, Ann?
You, but I didn't interpret what he said the way you're interpreting it.
Well, but allow me to speak my mind. And I think that, you know, as board members, I guess if you're not gonna tell us, don't even mention it. I prefer not to know, other than that you said you don't want us to know now.
No, listen, I'm sorry, what did I say that I didn't want to share?
It was the plan for the grab and go meals, because it's not been worked out.
Oh, okay, yeah, well, the reason I don't want to share it is because I can't give you accurate information, and I would hate to announce something on a public meeting that's inaccurate. That's why I don't want to share it, I'm not trying to hide anything.
I didn't think you were trying to hide it. And at the same time, this is not a public meeting. This is a private meeting.
No, this is a public meeting.
It's a meeting that's held in the public, so the public gets to hear every word that we said. And it is true that you had that phrase in what you said. I knew where you were going with it, because I know that you want to carefully have things in order before you give them out in public. That's a piece of information I have that maybe not everybody else has, and that's why I was able to interpret what Dr. Gianni said there differently than maybe Mr. Parker did. But the benefit of having this little exchange, which is kind of like a diversion, is just to say everybody's hypersensitive about language right now, and I think it's good when we're able to have an exchange and see some body language and some facial expression and tone of voice, and all of that is a very good thing. So are we ready to move on now from the grab and go
I do have a question about grab and go. I know Mr. Pacini was first, but just because we're on the topic of grab and go, will we have a plan in place, and will a robocall be completed before Tuesday? That's it, but that's
Yes, and it's going to be in the letters going at home, I believe. I think that's the plan right now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I apologize, you keep saying, and I'm sorry, Chris, I don't mean to cut you off. You said twice about letters going home. It is my understanding from the meeting that we were in today, they were being told that nothing will be going home. So maybe you can clarify for the community if the packets are going home today.
Oh,
If there was a little
okay.
confusion. I'm sorry, Chris, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it had been brought up twice, but I just wanted clarification.
No, it's an excellent point. When I say letters going home, I mean being sent via electronic, right? So I'm not meaning we're mailing stuff home. Everything's getting sent electronic and through Connect Ed. All of our opening documents are on our website. We have created acclamations on our parent portal, all in line with not passing papers around and exchanging things. Obviously, if parents want hard copies, that can be suggested, that can be requested, but our plan is to go digital with those things.
Thank you, and I apologize.
Listen, when I say going home, it does sound like mail, so it's.
Right, and I think
ready to clarify.
there's a lot, and I also know that there's a scramble for parent portal right now, for many families, since many families were not on before. So one of the takeaways today from the E&L meeting, was them really walking through the parent portal for our Spanish-speaking community. But I think once we put that video out there, I do think that our English-speaking community should also go on for those that are struggling a little bit, because it was very informative for anybody who is not on Parent Portal. And since that is the only way we are getting information, I think it's extremely important that we put out there that, the steps to get on to Portal.
Yeah, I don't know if you're aware, because you're using the portal, but I thought I mentioned this before. I think we sent some 662 letters out to families who were not on Parent Portal with those directions and how to connect. We did that about a week and a half ago, I think, so that was done. And again, sometimes you gotta keep reaching out to folks, and we will continue to do that. I don't know if Mr. Parker's got his hand up, because he's got his virtual hand up.
Well, actually, I did have my hand up before, but Chris has been waiting forever, so.
Thank you.
Sorry, Mr.
I want to go back to a topic of the remote learners and the issue of whether or not we should have teachers teaching solely remote. Who are the students that are all remote assigned to? Are they on a class roster?
Yeah.
So they do have, they have a teacher?
Yeah.
Correct? Okay. I guess, because I've heard this topic bounced around between the conversations with my wife's district and conversations with members of the Nassau Public School Board. I guess I don't, unless there were certain staff that we needed something to do because they had a medical reason not to report in person, is there really a need for an all-remote teacher?
Well, again, I think that there are benefits to provide additional support. But again, like I said earlier, I think we first have to see where the remote kids land. So if there's 3 remote kids in every class, I don't necessarily know if that's necessary. But then again, we got to see what implementation looks like, right? And then see if we need to provide some additional support.
Yeah, but I would think, is there an assumption that a student that's on 100% remote is going to need additional support?
No, I don't have any.
No, I guess I get it. I guess I'm struggling with, I guess I've heard assumptions from many conversations that kids that are 100% or more remote will have less of an opportunity. I understand missing that face-to-face interaction.
Right.
But what does, no, and I understand that. I guess my point is, what's the difference, and it's just an honest question, between having one teacher that only teaches all remote students, or have that remote student a part of a class roster that's in a hybrid?
Can I speak to this a little bit? Being an educator, because that classroom teacher is going to be split between in-person and remote students, they're not going to be able to dedicate their full time to giving the attention to either party. So if we have students that are solely remote, those students will need that attention that the in-person students will be getting when they're in person 2 days a week. So ideally, the remote teacher would be able to dedicate full attention to instructing remotely, making small groups and things along those lines, where the in-person teacher may not be able to have that luxury because they're going to be split between two different platforms. So there's there's what we're talking about with that additional support.
So, I think I understand that. I guess my point is, I'm getting contrasting opinion from some of the people I'm talking to. And I've heard that rationale as well, but I've heard some justification for being assigned a classroom teacher having additional benefits versus all remote. And a lot of it had to do with a connection to kids and a teacher on a little different level. Classes become, nice little networks, of a group. And I've heard the theory that large, because the assumption is that all remote a teacher that's teaching all remote will have a larger number.
That's not accurate.
Well, it isn't, well, no, it is.
No, it does not need to be at
My
18%.
point is that that's
At 18%, it does
the way
not
it's
need.
being handled in some districts is the point I'm getting at. So I don't know if we know that.
My thought was being is as we start to see this increase, it's something that we need to look into. We know that we already have teachers going out. We will need to provide substitutes. So financially, we're actually paying more as a district to provide substitutes for the teachers that are going to be out on FMLA to do the medical reasons. If those teachers can teach solely in classroom without having the interaction of students or teaching from home, financially and educationally, it might be wise for the district to look into that.
But isn't this something that the administration can determine as we get into it, to determine, the need for it and how most efficiently to provide all the services to all the students?
That is the plan, and I just wanna reiterate what we've been saying all along, that, to our parents, is that remote learning is similar, but is not the same. Okay, we were very clear with that. In fact, and I think I mentioned to the board, I may have not, the BTA had requested examples of what it looks like. Our administrators prepared those examples, so after we sign out of this meeting, you may wish to go to the staff resource page, and you'll be able to click on an example of what a lesson will look like at the elementary level or the secondary level. And we believe that our teachers have the skills and the tools to be able to do that, and they will be connected with all their kids. And that's what we have been very clear about what it looks like. But again, as we move into this plan and as we implement, we'll need to look at all items, and if we need to make adjustments, we will along the way.
Ms. Ancona and then Mr. Parker.
Thank you. I'm just speaking on the students with, I'm sorry, Dr. Gianni, some people are saying they can't hear you. I'm getting texts and messages. I don't know if it's everybody, but a few people.
Yeah, I'm not in the room just like you are, so
Yeah.
and then me looking for anybody. But I'm sure Matt's in there, he'll try to make an adjustment.
Okay, so going back to an equitable education, my concern, and I shared this with Dr. Gianni the other day during the walkthrough, is that contractually right now, secondary teachers are allowed to pick their extra help day, and there's no way to provide extra help to whatever day they pick, unless it's a Wednesday. There's going to be a cohort that's missing that important piece of extra help. And I know we're all being flexible, and I really appreciate what the teachers are doing. But I would like us to ask or request of the BTA that they pick their day as Wednesday until we're done with this COVID and we're back into the classroom. Because there's no way a child that's going on a Thursday, Friday, and on a bus, if their extra help is on a Thursday, Friday, will get to take advantage of the extra help. It's hard enough as it is with the 9 periods that they they have to kind of juggle their extra help schedule and maybe, pick one over another. But I think that somehow, some way, we need to try to make the secondary day uniform throughout the district.
And you bring up a good point, Ms. Ancona. We had planned to include the teachers in that, with regard to extra help as we normally do. And while no one is assigned, kids on that Wednesday, we may run into issues with regard to kids not being able to get the other extra help that they might need, everything being on the same day. So I would prefer, and you said ask if you could, I don't know, I think we could assign any day we want.
Oh, okay.
It's just not something I would want to do without speaking with them and let building administration take a look at the needs in the building and how we might better do that and make them part of that conversation. But I can certainly ask the principals to take a look at that.
That would be great. And I did think of what you mentioned, that, it's gonna be very limited on what classes they can do on a Wednesday. However, they do run into that problem, and that's why I'm against the 9 periods. And I know I keep saying this, but I've always been against the 9 periods, because usually you have that 30-minute, that extra period when you have an 8-period class for extra help. So right now, the kids have been facing this issue for quite some time, whether they have to pick and choose which one they do. So if English and math have extra help on Tuesdays, and those are the only days, they always have to pick that. They're always gonna struggle with that. So they've been struggling that, they've learned to manage somehow. We have 3 teachers who do try to help them with their schedule, and will stay after extra days. But I'm just thinking, we're always gonna run into this problem between the 2 cohorts. But I appreciate it, looking into it.
Mr. Parker?
Wow. Well, the question I did want to ask originally, Chris asked, so that takes that off off the table. But one of the things that I just wanted to make sure that I understand, Dr. Gianni, the information that you sent out to the parents was not only electronic, or was it?
No, it was electronic.
It was only, and so we mentioned earlier that the parents who are not electronically savvy, they're not getting this information, is that correct? Or what, how do they get this information?
No, I don't think that's accurate, because we have families that come in and say, I prefer hard copy. So I think it's getting out. I think the language barrier sometimes is the challenge, but even when we do send it out in 2 languages. But some folks just don't, check their emails all the time. They don't go to parent portal. And unfortunately, we really need to get our families in the habit of going to parent portal to see what's going on, because that's where all the information is with regard to children's learning.
And so you believe that all parents, regardless, have access to the portal?
Well, no, we know some don't, right? But the plan allows for that. I know I shared with the board, we purchased some 200 hotspots to take care of families that don't have internet access. We believe 200 will do what we need to do with regard to families. And if it doesn't, we'll need to get more. But we think we're going to be able to solve that.
Now, Dr. Gianni, is it possible for you to maybe at least send that information to me, the new hotspots that we have? Because I have people asking me on a regular basis, how do I get this information? So can you send me that information so I can at least be able to answer that question?
What are you looking for?
Well, where the hotspots are.
No, the hotspots are down in IT. They're turning them on now, so we're gonna distribute it. We're gonna hand the family hotspots. It's a little device, probably like this size,
Okay.
that connects to the internet. So it's not like you're gonna have to request it. We know some of our families who need it, and we will reach out to them. And I think once we roll out and see people unconnected, we may find others out that need it. But that information is out. It's not a, what are the specs of the hot spot kind of thing.
I understand. I just want to make sure that I understood it so that I can explain because,
And what I would do, Mr. Parker, if you're getting requests from families, they should contact their principal. They should tell them that I need access to the internet.
okay.
I'm wondering, is there a way we can participate in parent portal so that we see everything? And that way we know what the parents ask or no?
You have to have a child to do that.
Okay,
I
but
think you
Julie
do
said-
know, we asked you if you'd like to be added to the
Right.
calls. And hopefully those of you that don't have children in school will do that, and then you'll you'll hear everything that's going on district-wide.
okay, I think that would help us a lot.
Do you know, Dr. Gianni, when the meetings were, I know there's a current email meeting going on right now, when that meeting, I know it was recorded, when it will be posted on the webpage? Because that was step by step in both English and in Spanish, how to create parent portal and exactly what is on there. So those of you that are board members that may not be on the portal, that might also be something that you might want to take some time to watch.
Yeah, we usually do it the next day, but since I didn't run that meeting, I'll have to check on it.
Okay, I know there's a 1 o'clock meeting tonight.
It was recorded though.
It was recorded this morning, I saw that it was recorded this morning, so if we can get that up there sooner than later, I think that would be very beneficial to both our Spanish-speaking and our English-speaking community as well as our board members.
Are the docs going to be able to be submitted electronically, like all the reopening documents?
Yeah, everything is gonna be on the portal. We've already, the affirmations you're talking about?
So, yeah, like the emergency contact, all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff?
everything
Oh, I missed it.
was supposedly, well, your emergency contact, you could always fix that yourself, on the portal. In fact,
Oh, okay. I
in
must
fact,
have missed
it's
it.
my understanding, the first time on this year, you have to, correct that for the first time.
Oh, I didn't get that update. Maybe on the computer version, I don't go on that way.
Yeah, okay. I thought I
That's
said.
not accurate, that never comes out, that you have to change it.
No, the first time in, I think it,
Oh, the first time you signed up.
time signing in, it forces you to update.
Okay, the first time signing it, but it's not yearly.
Ms. Police, you're muted.
Thank you. I just want to double back to Ann's comment about the portal. So we have the board president and the board vice president don't have children in the school, and we don't have access to what's being distributed. And 4 of us on the board don't have access to children in the school. So there has to be some way that we are kept in the loop of what is being communicated. And I'm also not satisfied with with what Ms. Aruda spoke to with our Spanish-speaking families and trusting that they are getting the information. Is there a way we can have, so number one, I do think we need all the information that's being distributed on the portals in whatever fashion, either in the update or some other mechanism to come up with some sort of portal for those of us who don't have children in schools. And secondly, not only for Spanish-speaking families, but all families. If we know that some families are not picking up the information through the portal or in whatever means that they have requested to receive that information, we need to reach out to them, be it through our parent liaisons or our directors, to ensure information is getting to them, and if not, why, and then if not, how.
Okay, so first, the information on the portal is on the website. So all the information that is on there with regard to the affirmations is all on the website. You can go to any of the school's pages and see opening documents. Click on that and you'll see exactly what's on there. What you're not privy to is the student information. And that obviously is personal and confidential. That information remains there, and of course you won't be able to see that. With regard to reaching out to families, I think the board knows we have done a yeoman's effort to do that, and we have improved that. And that is one of the reasons why with parent meetings specifically, we didn't even use the emails in the portal. We used the emails that were collected by the email department, which were more accurate and better because those families weren't updated in the portal. And then our teachers use the Remind app, something that's used throughout the school year to talk to the parents about. So we have done that, and we have knocked on doors, I think the board knows. We do need to probably do a better job as we move forward with regard to getting information into the churches more routinely, into the community so people see flyers and posters. But we will be doing that as well.
And who was able to knock on those doors?
We had our responders knocking on doors to the.
Responders, okay.
Yeah, we were welcomed by some and screamed at by others.
We can definitely do what we can do.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. I'll put that on the schools, the portal information on the different schools. On the-
And just for the sake of clarity in language, my question about having access to the information on parent portal was not a request about individual student information at all, but merely to see what information had gone out to parents explaining anything about the reopening or any other questions that may have arisen. So I just wanted to clarify that.
And I share that, I share the same feeling as you, Ann. Thank you.
Okay. So, but thank you for explaining that we can cruise the portal a little bit, or rather cruise the website a little bit more and find access to that information.
And listen, if you know what you want, again, just ask, we'll get it to you as well.
Okay. All right. Did I see another hand up with a question?
I actually have one, if you don't mind.
And Ms. Ann.
Thank you. Have we thought or are we going to be updating our code of conduct to include our new COVID policies?
But we're gonna obviously look at that, as you mentioned a couple of meetings ago. We believe we have been taking care of our code with regard to electronics, et cetera, but it's a good request, and we need to take a look at that once we get rolling. We think we're covered with regard to our progressive discipline as well as our code of conduct. But we'll take another look at it as well.
So as of like the first day, we'll use, let's just say, an example as the mask, that would be like a wardrobe part of the code of conduct, like that's how we're gonna go into
No,
it?
it's a requirement, right? The board approved the requirement, it would be insubordination, and what the principal would need to do is take a look at, the case, the age of the youngster, and all of those things that you look at when you look at progressive discipline, and deal with it that way. Obviously, I think some older kids would be treated a little different than some of our preschoolers running around at first. But we will need to be progressive in looking at those items and taking care of them. Listen, we're probably gonna run into issues, with kids. I'm hopeful that we're not, given the day and age that we're in, but I think it behooves us to remind kids and use this as a learning experience when we're working with them.
Okay, and then I mentioned the other day that I had saw faculty wearing the gator masks, and today I went again to the high school and I saw the same issue. So I think that it just needs to be enforced to the faculty of what's acceptable face masks.
Okay, yes, I will do that, and I'm a little surprised at that.
Thank you.
I don't mean to cut you. So the clarification, and I just want to ask the board if they agree with me. These clarifications I put in there are really clarifications. I don't think they would change the document, so if the board's all right, I think we'd like to just update the document. But if the board also wants to vote on it, you can vote on it as well. But I'd like to get it out there. My letter to the community is going out tonight or tomorrow with regard to reopening, and it specifically talks about the mask piece. It brings it into more detail, so that will get out directly.
Dr. Gianni, do you mind if we, at least read through it, for an hour and then respond?
Sure, yeah, and again, go, you'll see the red, so I made it so you didn't have to.
I did look at it briefly, but I just wanted to sort of go through it. But I mean, I would get back to you within an hour.
All right, well, okay.
I send it.
Okay.
I thank you for making those changes as I requested, because like I said, it did need to have some clear definition. The other thing I just wanted to really quickly mention, the Chromebooks, do we at least have enough in our stockpile for the 719 kids that pick the remote option?
Well, all 3 through 12 will have.
Okay, so like I know kindergarten's a high number of remote learners, so do you have enough of those right now?
So we have enough for all 3 through 12 and all remote learning K to 2.
Okay,
We also believe we should be able to get devices in the hands of the kids that don't have a device at home, K to 2. And that's what the principal's letter today or tomorrow is going out to try to determine. So all our remote learners will have it.
okay, thank you.
But
And-
some families may not need a Chromebook device.
Yeah, so
Right.
that's what we're asking, because we're short, we're asking if you have something at home, can you hang in there and you'll get it as soon as we get it.
Mr. Pacini, you had your hand up?
Yes, thank you. Dr. Gianni, have we formally or discussed eliminating any type of perfect attendance recognition?
No.
I mean, it just seems logical that we should make sure we're not promoting perfect attendance because people aren't sending kids to school sick.
Yeah.
And I think
Good point. And you're talking about student, right?
student right now, but I think
Oh.
later.
Parent, I think everybody.
What's that?
There were perfect attendance awards for faculty as well, and I don't think that that's something we want to
Well, I did.
encourage.
Sorry,
I
if
think
can-
Aaron, on the,
And I just think we should be careful here, that's an executive section conversation, I think, because there's contractual. That's why I didn't say that. I do think we need to have a discussion, in executive session at some point at the next meeting and, bring in conversation with the bargaining units. But for right now, for public purposes, I only wanted to discuss on student.
Okay.
To that note, I appreciate Dr. Colson's 3 A's, but let's make sure that moving forward at the middle school, the 3 A's become the 2 A's.
I'm sorry, I don't know what the 3 A's is.
Attendance, attitude. Yeah. So under the plan, the way it's written, the kids check in. So they still can have perfect attendance, right? So even if you're on remote, you're going to check in. Because remember, we have to report attendance to the state to get our money. That's why.
I understand, listen, I understand that, I'm just saying that I think, and we've had this discussion in the past, we should not be going forward promoting perfect attendance in the future. That's all, that's what I'm getting at.
why
Whether
don't we
it's during the
redefine
reopening
it?
plan, whether it's in the reopening plan or just going forward, we're in a day and age where if you're sick and you have the sniffles, you should err on the side of caution, stay home.
Okay, I didn't
If
think
you're
that.
remote and you have COVID, I don't necessarily know that you need to be checking in. So I agree with Chris, 100%.
Agreed.
Yeah, they, let them relax and rest.
No, we don't want parents sending their kids in with sniffles, that's for sure.
Mr. Trent, did I see your hand up before with a question? You're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I just had a question, well, I have many, but I guess the first one is during our walkthroughs, I think it was Gina or one of us asked about, shields for the desks being an option for staff. And in the policy, it states that, that physical barriers may also be placed on the desk as an additional measure to prevent the spread of COVID-19. But when we asked, I just want to ask again, just to get clarification, is that still an option for faculty to opt into? And if so, have we begun to purchase or have we begun to order any physical barriers for their desks?
I'm not aware of any faculty member requesting a shield for their desk. And as I mentioned to you on the walkthroughs, faculty generally do not sit behind the desk and teach. So to do that might not be effective. That's why what we did is purchase face shields for all faculty and instructional staff that are in the PPE bin, that faculty can wear if they like, and this way they could also move around the room, they could go to the smartboard, they could go to the Chromebook, et cetera, et cetera. So, but I'm not aware of any requests that have been made. That's none have, but obviously if those requests were made, we would look at those individually.
I just think those desks are way too close to not have shields, and just for the teacher's peace of mind, and I said that to you the other day, Dr. Gianni, even if there's a way that we can make that happen, and I do know that there were a few requests on that, because I spoke to some teachers, but those desks, especially in the middle school, are way too close to those kids' desks. That front row, the kid is literally at the teacher's desk, and in that one classroom we were in, that was a perfect example. I really do. If they want shields, I think the board should approve them.
So again, as I said at the walkthrough, you saw a classroom setup, but those desks may not all be used simply because there's that many kids in there. We set the rooms up for the maximum number of children in desks. Those desks may very well be used for the Chromebook sitting on as the teacher's delivering the lesson. Obviously, if we can't achieve the 6 foot, things got to be changed. And I think those are a couple of the things that you did see that day. But those adjustments will be made. There will always be that 6 foot barrier, if not more, in one of the cases that you did see.
And just keep in mind, they're not gonna sit at their desk. Sorry, Cameron, I'm just saying they're gonna be sitting at their desk when they do independent work. So they're gonna be at their desk. I'm sorry, Cameron, go ahead.
Well, you have the point. When I was in school, I had teachers who sat at their desks the whole time, and I had teachers who didn't. But specifically the policy that the board approved, but the last one we approved said that the desks will be at least 6 feet apart. Then it continued to say physical barriers will also be placed as an additional measure to prevent COVID. So if that's in the policy, I feel like the teacher should have the option to say, okay, I want a physical barrier, and that be given to them. No review needed, because there's no review that's stated in the policy. I just want to make that clear that, even though you're not aware of any teachers who have put in for a physical barrier, that still needs to be an option for them if they choose to do so.
Again, if teachers so request that, we will look at that and make those decisions on an individual basis.
Okay. My next question. Can you speak to security? Because during the walk, the security guards were used for monitoring the bathrooms. They were used for, I heard they're going to be used for making sure that students don't congregate in areas. So I want to speak, because we have a less amount of security guards as we did last year. Can you speak to security? Can we maintain the same level of security we had last year, even though we are utilizing security guards for other purposes besides what we utilized them for last year?
Well, I haven't had a request for added responders for the need in terms of implementing the plan. Obviously, if we had that request, I would make those additions, or at least speak with the board about making those additions. That's not currently planned because, as I said, it has not been requested by any of our principals. Remember, we do have less kids. Less than 50% of the kids will be in the building. So we don't feel we're going to need additional staff to do that. But clearly, as I've indicated, once we start our implementation, if there's a need for additional staff in any place, I would be talking to the board about that.
Okay. My next question, can administration send out, I guess, some kind of memo so the staff understands the time that they have from the state if they, need to quarantine by a note from a doctor, or if they should develop COVID, that they don't have to use their own time, that there's other time available to them?
Sure, let me look at that. I mean, I think that's been pretty clear, but we can certainly do that if that's something that the board would like me to do.
Please, because, amongst the dozens of footballs that I have received, that was a hot.
So the staff is indicating what do they need clarity for?
They don't, because they are, it's unclear to them at this time if they were to, develop COVID, or if there was, someone with COVID in their household and they need time to get a test and get the report or to quarantine. Do they use their own time, or, is there time that the district is giving them, or is there time that the New York State government is giving them? So just to make that clear to them in some form, I think is important.
Okay, I was actually just looking at a document I got from the joint DOH Nassau Suffolk that is pretty informative. Maybe that's something I can share with the staff.
Excellent. My next question is, can you guarantee that there's going to be a nurse in all of the buildings at all times while there are students in the building?
No, I can't guarantee that. I can tell you that would be the expectation, but as you know, nurses are far and few between. We do have one additional nurse in the district, so obviously we're well stocked with regard to nurses. But I certainly can't guarantee that, because there may be a time that we don't have any nurses because of an illness or a sickness. We do have health aides in the high school and middle school. I would guess that more than likely will always be covered by some health professional in all the buildings, but it's not something I'm comfortable guaranteeing.
Well, I think it was in one of the committees I seen a document that says there is an assigned nurse for all the buildings, and then there is one additional nurse that is used to cover the breaks of those nurses in the buildings. So to me, it looks like if a nurse calls out, now you are probably going to utilize that floating nurse to fill that spot, and then it would probably, again, make sense to me that when those nurses go on lunch, there's no one to cover them. I'm very uncomfortable with having students in the building and there be no designated health professional to take care of them when something happens.
And what you described is exactly what we do. That's the process and procedure. But the way you worded your question was that, I guarantee, and I can't guarantee that, because there could be an instance where two nurses go out sick and I have to put a health aide in there. We always try to get nurses from either our sublist or from a nursing service, but sometimes we cannot secure one.
So now at that point, I'm comfortable with having students in the building. If there's no nurse in the building of hundreds of kids, not one nurse, I mean, what is a health aide? Are they qualified to, are they able to address wounds, or what is a health aide? What kind of?
A health aide can do your basic care for injuries and whatnot.
So I said it.
A health aide can attend to children, health issues, yes.
They can't administer medicine though, right?
No, I don't believe they can administer medicine.
So if a kid needs an EpiPen, is anybody allowed to put it in them?
No.
Well, I think even staff can give an EpiPen, doesn't have to be a nurse.
Well, what about medicine? What about pills that the students take on a daily basis?
You're asking me questions I just can't answer for you. We plan to put have a nurse there, but we have one additional nurse assigned to the district to be able to cover cases when we don't have a nurse. And we also utilize a sub-list as well as a sub-service with regard to nurses, to make sure we always have a nurse in the building. I just simply cannot guarantee you that I can do that every single.
Well, I guess what I'm for is like a contingency plan if a nurse calls out. Because if one nurse calls out, it seems like we're in a pickle. And
No, if one nurse calls out, we're still in fine shape because we have our roving nurse.
but then you have no one to cover their lunches. So there's gonna be a period of time in every building where there's gonna be no nurse.
I don't think our nurses go out of the building, Mr. Trent, but if your concern is not want someone physically present in the building, that might be a challenge.
Well, there's always security in the building if something happens.
Pardon?
There's always security in the building in case something happens. I just was thinking there would be the same thing if something medical happens.
The only challenge with that is that there are many more security and responders assigned to each building than nurses.
Mm-hmm.
Nurses are at premium in Suffolk County with regard to access and assignment. I think we're in very good shape in that we do have the roving nurse as well as 2 health aides that support the nurses in the secondary building. So I would guess that we're in much better shape than many districts. But in terms of making that guarantee to you, I don't want to make a guarantee to you that I don't think there may be a situation I won't be able to keep it.
My next question is, what would a nurse consider before sending a student or staff home with COVID suspicions?
The nurse is going to have to make a determination of whether they are suspect COVID. I don't want to try to tell you that I know what those exact symptoms are going to be like. Our nurses, I believe, participated in a training, or actually I think that training got moved. And they will be able to identify what symptoms are. Right? And listen, it's going to be a challenge because the symptoms also look like other symptoms. And I'm sure that in many cases we send adults and students home that don't have COVID. But as you know, the way the plan is written, they will need to get a test to be able to come back into school.
Cameron brings up a good point with these nurses, and I really didn't come at it like this, thinking about this, but we didn't consult any medical professional really in our reopening plans, and I'm not sure if the reopening plans, if the nurses were actually on those committees. But have you personally had any faculty meetings just with the nursing staff and the nurses aides?
Our director of student support services did. Our nurses were included in the subcommittee meetings. I think, in fact, an invitation went out to all of them. If you look at the document, maybe I'll be able to identify them. And I think there was a nurse on just about every one of the committees. We did confer with the school doctor, as we did receive much information from health professionals through the CDC. So we have made those connections.
Okay, Ms. Saruda and then Ms. Felice.
Finally, it's a very simple question this time, Dr. Gianni. The sound quality is still not working very well to the public. Is there any way that we can maybe have IT come in and figure that out? I'm getting quite a few texts.
Sure. I will text Sarah to check out sound quality. And I'll take another question.
Well, I have
Carol had a question? Oh, you have more, sorry, Jen.
everything though. I have a ton.
I just want to remind the board, I only have till 6:30.
I think, Cheryl, you had your hand up?
Sure, I'll try and make it brief, and then the follow-up, can be given to us at a later date. I just, in the questions about the nurse and the nurses, I'm just not recalling seeing the job description and wasn't clear that they actually do treatment. So if we can be provided with their job description and what they can and cannot do, I think that would be helpful to the board. I'd like to see that. Also, data with respect, I'm just not convinced that we've done enough to reach out to families. We talked about this a lot through the summer with the network, the leadership network group. And if there's any data or if there's an app that we can establish, who go, you said responders go out. How many times have they gone out? How many doors have they knocked on? How many were answered? How many weren't? If we haven't collected that data, I'd like to see us start collecting it because I think we need to know definitively who is connected and who is not. And I had 3 questions and that's only 2 and I forgot the third one. Chain of command. At the end of the guide, we speak about points of contacts and safety coordinators, and those safety coordinators are our principals. What do the principals do, and who do they call when they need resources?
Well, they would call me, Mr. Briggs is the district person, but so they would go through Mr. Briggs, and which would come to me.
And with respect to the different governing agencies, with New York State, CDC, so on and so forth, do you have administrations that are responsible for monitoring each one of those jurisdictions? Is one person assigned to it? Who is responsible for keeping up to date?
I have been, we get all updates directly from DOH or SCP. They just come. I believe all the principals are reviewing it. I know that I review the documents all the time. You also know as well through your client memos that we get from council. They review everything and continually provide us updates with regard to that.
Actually, that's a good point about the client memos. Do we share those client memos with the principals?
Some.
Or you say the information from them?
It depends on the contact, yes.
Okay.
Some things I do, yes, I do.
I just see an awful lot of responsibility being placed on them, and I just want to make sure they have the tools and the resources to address those needs. And I do understand, like you say, it's a work in progress, and we're going to have to see as it goes along, but I just don't want to miss anything as far as giving them those resources. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you guys hear me?
Yes, I agree too.
Am I breaking up? Can you hear me?
You're not frozen, but I hear you.
I'm frozen, it's weird, but just to the point that Cheryl just made with the keeping up on the guidelines, I know we get them in, and I'm not saying that we don't, but it's very easy to miss them when no one is specific to that piece of information. So just for an example, I brought to your attention the cups. That was from August 5th, and we just had our meeting on Thursday, and you were unaware of that. Maybe we could delegate some kind of responsibility to somebody specific just to look at the new guidelines that are coming in, because as we open, we're gonna get more. Once they, this is all trial and error even for the state. So if we can get a point person to look at them every day, the daily updates, and see what's changed, just so we are on top of everything, because we wanna make this a safe environment for our students and our staff. But it's very easy to miss something, especially when it's sometimes, 3 pages long to 140 pages. So one person just keeping up on what's been changing would be a good idea.
Okay, we can certainly do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Trent, you have a question?
Yes. Are the K-3 teachers aware that their students won't be receiving Chromebooks at the beginning of the school year?
I don't know. The principals were aware. I know they had meetings this morning with the faculty. I imagine they shared that with them, but I honestly couldn't tell you.
Can we double check? Because I imagine the teachers, as the teacher we spoke to during our walkthrough, was talking about getting her students used to knowing how to use a device is new to them. So if they don't have it, I'm sure, I don't want them to have to change their plans on the fly. So it just, I guess it would be a good idea to make sure,
Any more questions? Ms.
yes,
Belize?
I'm
Just
sorry,
one more quick question. With respect to the superintendent's conference, those meetings are taking place tomorrow and the day after?
Wednesday and Thursday.
Wednesday and Thursday, today's Monday? Okay, Wednesday and Thursday. Is the mock, day in a classroom, a period in a classroom going to be an exercise that's going to be shared between you and the staff to run through the plan and answer any of any outstanding questions that they still have and may or may not, have they given those answers?
So since the principals have done 2 building meetings with staff to answer questions, today was the elementaries and the middle school. So that was the purpose of that. I met with spoken with the principals this morning. They said the meeting went very well, not a lot of questions on behalf of the faculty and staff. I think the high school did theirs on Friday though. Superintendent's conference day, there is going to be portions of it that are specifically designed to what the framework looks like. I shared with the board earlier that at the request of the BTA, administration has developed examples of what the class looks like. So that's been done and posted on the website. So now they'll be able to see what it looks like, and they'll get the details of the how-to on Wednesday and Thursday. But again, these are skills that we believe our teachers have. As the board knows, we've been teaching remotely since March 15th. We're not introducing any new tools or any new skills. These are all skills and tools that they have had professional development on, and we will continue to provide professional development on. So we're pretty confident that the plan will work. I'm sure that we'll have some trip-ups, and some folks will need more support than others, and we're prepared to do that. And that's about it with regard to that. But I think we're in good shape. We'll probably have a couple of technical issues as well, but they'll be resolved. I'm confident we'll be able to do that. You know, sometimes you just got to put the thing to the test, right? And to see what the plan looks like. It's, you know, you build the plan, and then you work the plan, and then you take a look at the plan, and you rebuild the plan. And that's where I think we will be. But I'm confident that our folks can do what's planned.
And then just to close out that thought, and to welcome feedback from the plan to make it better, so that we're assured the teachers have the resources they need to provide what they need for the students.
Sure. We introduced and brought more teachers actually into remote teaching and learning committee to help build those details on what they look like. Teachers actually contributed to what the framework will be. And listen, once we start rolling, we may need to change the framework somewhat. You know, I'm not looking to tie hands, but I think it's in clear our community what they want. They want structure, and they want live connections with their kids and their teachers. You know, teachers are the face of learning. Kids need to see that, and that's what this plan does.
Okay, thank you.
I have a couple more questions.
Okay, you've got a few minutes.
I mentioned this before, with the masks and the messaging on the masks. When I went over the plan again last night, the messaging only refers to when the students wear masks, not when the faculty wear masks. I think that we need to just add that language into where you are referring to faculty and staff about the the messaging.
I'm sorry, I thought it was referring to both, but I will certainly take a look at that. Yeah, so page 16, you have another question?
Page 15. And then lastly, when I brought this up before, just want to talk to the, see what the board thinks about it. There is a minimum amount of time for the mask breaks, but there is no maximum amount of time. And I'm very concerned with students having their masks off in class for a prolonged period of time, which is something, as per the plan, is possible. Whether it's likely or not, I have no idea. I just think that it shouldn't be possible for them to literally have their off for 40 to 45 minutes. I just wanted to see what everyone else thought about that.
I agree.
Do you remember which page of the plan that's on?
I thought the mask breaks were defined as a 5-minute break per 40-minute period.
Sure.
That's what,
That's what I remembered as well.
Yeah, but let me speak to that. First, let me say to the previous about teachers, that language is not specific to students, that's everyone, with regard to the messaging. And then to speak to the time limit, it's 5 minutes per. However, it also allows the teacher some flexibility with regard to hot days, etc. If they need to increase that break, we felt that was important. That was something that I don't remember who it came from, but it was a suggestion through the committees. And honestly, I think it would also help with avoiding discipline problems too. I mean, if the kids are burning up in a room and it's hot, and they may need a quick break, or maybe they're going to take a walk outside to take a break. This language allows for that. If the board wants to tighten it up, that's certainly the prerogative of the board. We can do that.
I believe we can. Sounds good to me.
From reading this, what is written, it leaves it doesn't mention, specific scenarios. It just mentions, classroom, circumstances may vary. So, and that's what it says. So for like it to be more clear, because, reading it, it says if the teacher wants the mask off, then the masks are off. And some students may be uncomfortable with it. Sitting in the class and you're the only one with your mask on because the teacher's letting everybody keep them off. I'd be uncomfortable with that. And I think that's all the questions I have.
So how do you want to do that, President Hayes? Do you want to give me some suggestions?
I think we were going to have an hour just to look at the red line changes. And I think that comments could come back to you. I don't hear from any discussion that we're having with any of the board members that there's really anything that I think needs a resolution. I think that the suggestions are to just help clarify and tighten up on a few things. Does anybody think we need to have a board resolution, get back together and have a board resolution in order to authorize these changes?
No.
I see 3 of us that say no, we're good to go, and everybody seems good to go with that. So we've got an hour. I'm going to get Mr. Parker to make a comment, but we have an hour now to review the document, make our comments, and if anybody discovers something that really needs the attention copy all of us on it.
And I'm gonna give the board a little more time because I'm not gonna be able to do anything in an hour anyway. So how about, before you go to bed tonight? And this meeting, and I'll take care of it first thing in the morning.
Who said we're going to bed?
I'm going to bed in an hour. No, I'm just kidding. I know that Dr. Gianni does need to go in the next 8 minutes. Since this is our last meeting prior to school starting, I noticed on here we do not have closing remarks from the board members, but I do think that we should have a moment, maybe a minute or two, each person wants to speak, because this is our last meeting before school starts on Tuesday. So if we are okay moving forward from the reopening, I respectfully request that we are all able to have a minute or two to give a closing remark, even though it's not on the agenda.
Okay, we'll get back to that. Ms. Ancona, did you have one question or no?
I can provide in the closing remarks, that's fine.
Okay, let's do that. And since Ms. Saruda, started it, you're on mute. Now you can go and, you've got 40 seconds.
Oh boy, where's the timer? I actually just wanted to speak to the community and just let them know. I wear many hats. I'm a mom, I'm a teacher, I'm a board member. So I do understand wholeheartedly exactly the anxiety that they're feeling in all levels, whether it's a parent or a teacher. I want them to know that at all times, whether it's a community member, they can always reach out to me and talk to me. As a teacher, I completely support them and I understand exactly what they're going through, and I will always be there to support them because I'm walking in their same shoes with them. As a board member, I see the hard work that the administration has put into the plan, and I respect that, and I look forward to continuous open communication with administration, not just central, but also at the building levels. So moving forward, I just want to wish everyone, whether they are hybrid or remote, a very, very wonderful, successful, and healthy school year. Did I go
Thank
over?
you. Okay, who's counting? Miss, Ancona.
Okay, I too want to wish everybody a successful school year. We are with you all, whether you're a teacher, a student, faculty, administration. If you need us, we're all here. You have our email addresses and our phone numbers. It's going to be a lot of trial and error, and just have patience with everybody, please. If you do have any concerns, please start with your building and then go up if you have to. It's going to be a trial. It really is, and I really feel for everybody. You know, I have family and friends that are going to be in those buildings, and it's scary, and I understand it is. And we're going to do everything we can to make sure everybody's safe. And like I said, if you guys need us, we're here, and I just wish everybody the best of luck, because it's not easy whether you're keeping your kid home or sending them in. Thank you.
Okay, who's next? Anybody else with final, Mr. Trent?
Yeah, I just want to second what's been said. I wish everyone a successful start to the school year. And I just want to reiterate the fact that our numbers are all on the website, on the calendars, all over the place. Our emails are very simple. So if you have a question, comment, concern, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'll always get back to you. Especially now because of how fluid things are and how regularly things change, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Ms. Belize?
Thank you, Madam President. Also, I'd like to just thank, the administration and Karen and Gina for, joining, in on the building, tour on Thursday. That's always a very encouraging sign that this year, unlike other years, it was even more encouraging. I am retired this year and am dedicating my, much of my time solely to the work here with the Board of Education. And it's work that I admire, work that I love, and I too am available to teachers, parents, students, anyone who needs to reach out, so that we can share that information back with the board, and make sure that we're reading the pulse of our community correctly. And I would like to wish everyone success as we move forward. Be patient and let us know if there's anything that we need. Thank you.
Any other? Mr. Kachemi?
Yeah, sure. I guess I'd like to say, and I've spoken to many parents, and I think most understand, but I hope that everybody, whether you're a parent, community member, staff member, student, understand that there's not an educator or student in the United States who's ever been in the position we're all in right now. So nothing's gonna go perfectly, things are gonna change, everything is fluid. We have dedicated professionals from our administration to our faculty, to buildings and grounds, to every facet of our building who are here to make sure your children's educational experience is fruitful and safe. So give the professionals the opportunity to do their job and pivot any way they see fit. I would also hope that, if somebody has concerns and questions, they first contact their child's teacher and possibly building administrator, the people who are closest to the problem to handle it, versus taking to social media and sending emails, et cetera. That stuff all works, and it's good to speak to other parents maybe in a similar scenario, but things can get fixed a lot quicker with direct access to those who are in charge of your children's education and care. I would hope it would happen that way. Thank you. And I guess in closing, the same as everybody, thank you to the staff and administration specifically, who've been working so diligently since the spring to have a safe opening.
Mr. Parker?
Yes, I would just like to say ditto to everything that's been said tonight from all the board members, parents, teachers, community. I'm sure you know and understand how difficult it's been for all of us. There's a lot of work involved. We are working hard to make sure as possible that your children will be taken care of with the ultimate protection. Thank you again for the confidence that you have in us. And again, Dr. Gianni, you guys are doing a great job. And I know the community hears you. I know that there's a lot of times that we disagree as a community, as a board, but in general, we are working for one cause, and that is that our young people get the greatest education they can. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm just going to summarize and say that many of the people who have come in to me have said, I don't think you ever expected to be in this position, referring to what's gone on since March. That's the case, but it's also given all of us an opportunity to see the strengths and the good things that are brought out by other members of the, among other members of the board, as well as our superintendent, our other administrators, our building leaders, our teachers, our staff, and to look particularly over the late spring with people pitching in to make sure that the meals were delivered. These weren't people standing on circumstance and saying that's not part of my job description. This was people who pitched in because they're caring members of our community. And I want to commend everybody for doing that. I want us to remember that there is a spirit of cooperation here. There is a spirit of caring. And we need to be conscious of how every other person is under some level of stress right now that person's never been under in their life. So again, I want to thank the staff, the community members, the teachers, the administration, and Dr. Gianni, thank you for keeping your eye on the ball and being targeted toward ultimately getting us reopened this year. And while it may not be the method or what we had expected a year ago, it's definitely moving us in a direction that we've got a public education system to offer to our students to help them grow and become, competent, responsible members of our community, of our community and also the world that they're going to be living in, which is very different from the ones that we grew up in. So thank you again, Dr. Gianni.
You're welcome.
Okay?
Okay,
Close to 6:30.
it is 6:31, you're over.
I'm sorry. Okay, thanks everybody. We've got, before you go to bed, make your comments. Don't forget.
All right.
Have to adjourn the meeting.
Okay, Mr. Trent's making the motion.
I do. I make it.
Okay, a second by Ms. Ancona. All in favor?
My hands up.
Everybody's there except for
Mr.
Mr.
He left. Yeah, he left.
absent for the vote, but, thank y'all very much.
Thank you. Have a good night, all.